Hello class, I am thrilled to introduce Dr. David Matsumoto, who's here to join us today to talk a little bit about gesture, microexpression, nonverbal behavior, culture, and emotion. He is the director of HumanTel, a company that provides training to individuals and organizations studying nonverbal human communication. He's very accomplished, professor of psychology at San Francisco State University, and the founder of the university's Culture and Emotion Research Laboratory. He's also one of the few to receive the prestigious Minerva Grant, a $1.9 million grant from the U.S. Department of Defense, examining the role of emotions in ideology-based groups. And if that's not enough, he's also a 7th degree judo black belt. And he is a coach and the owner of East Bay Judo Institute. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Could you start out by telling us a little bit about HumanTel and what you do?
Sure. HumanTel is a company that leverages research knowledge based on research in the field of emotion, nonverbal behavior, facial expressions, and culture, and creates practical applications from the research. One of the main things that we do, in addition to the research, we do applied research in the company, but one of the main things that we do is teach people how to read facial expressions in general and microexpressions in particular. Most of the people that we train are those who do some kind of face-to-face interaction as part of their professional lives. We spend most of our time, much of our time, training individuals in law enforcement and national security and national intelligence.
Okay. So, this is for a documentary class, and documentary photographers go out into the world and they tell stories as it unfolds around them, and using the camera as a medium to do so. So, before we started our talk, we were talking a little bit about how microexpressions and nonverbal communication is universal. So it's a language that transcends spoken word.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. The research over the last 40 or 50 years, both done by myself, but also by many other researchers around the world, has demonstrated that there are a small set, about 7 emotional states that are universally expressed and recognized in the face. That means that people all around the world, regardless of their race, culture, ethnicity, nationality, gender, age, religion, sexual orientation, or any other demographic characteristic, will express these emotions on their faces in exactly the same ways. These emotions that we believe are universally expressed are anger, contempt, disgust, fear, happiness, sadness, and surprise, and their derivatives, their synonyms. So, for example, there's a particular prototype of an angry face, for example, and we believe you will see that face or versions of that, variants of that face, when people are feeling all of the variants of anger, such as anger, angry, mad, frustrated, enraged, hostile, pissed off, annoyed, and from low intensity to high intensity anger, you see variants of this one prototypical face of anger. And so there are 7 emotions, expressions in the face that have been shown to be universally expressed and recognized.
Very interesting. Could we take a look at a few photos?
Sure.
I would love just to hear your thoughts on what comes forward in some of these images. So this first one here is from Lauren Greenfield's Girl Culture. And it's a young girl in a dressing room, and her friend is looking at her. And so Greenfield's work, Girl Culture, just sort of looks at how women in America or young girls in America interact with their feminine identity. And from my perception, there's a lot of anxiety and desperation in all of these photos. And that's sort of what I take away from it. But I would love to hear what you see with your expert eyes.
Well, you know, my world is everything that's going on above the shoulders.
Okay.
And of course, that's not, the first thing to notice is that that's not the entire message that you get from a picture, of course, because you get the rest of the body and everything else that's in the frame that has some kind of emotional meaning. Where my expertise is, of course, what is going on in the face, and probably the overall message that is given from a photograph is a accumulation or a combination of all of the messages that one gets from the various parts in the photograph. So for example, just in this girl's face on the right here, she shows a little bit of the inner corner raising of the eyebrows, a little of the raising of the lower lip. These are parts of that prototypical expression of sadness or distress, a little bit. And so you know that she's distressed about something, but it's very low level. It's very subtle. The message is clear, but it's not intense. And you can see it's not an intense expression of grief, because the more intense version of this would be one who's grieving or mourning or just experienced the loss of a loved one. Here there's a loss, but it's a much more subtle loss, and it's almost a little bit of a pout here. That she's looking. Now she's doing other things here. Now you can kind of put that. I mean, the faces are interesting because emotions tell you how a person is processing what is going on with them at that particular moment in time. So her mind is processing some kind of distress that's occurring because of some kind of loss. The loss could be because of loss of control of the situation, a loss of self-esteem, loss of some image or confidence. Don't know exactly what the loss is, but she's processing some kind of loss. Then we can search the rest of the photograph or the image to kind of fill in the blanks of why she might be feeling like this. So could it be because she's got something with her body? Could it be because of this clothes? Could it be because of this social interaction? I don't know. Perhaps no one knows, but perhaps the fact that no one knows gives these kinds of images that quality, because people search in their minds to fill in the blanks once you see some message like this. But this is what I get from this particular image here.
Okay.
So when you said anxiety, you used another word, I don't remember exactly what that was. You're probably picking up some kind of negative feeling that she's
I am.
I mean, if you just take away the rest of the shot, you just look at that. She's not a happy camper. She's concerned about something. But then what is she concerned with? And then you start filling in the blanks as a perceiver of the situation. We all do. And we our minds start filling in the blanks because we start looking, but we latch onto this as the anchor. Which is part of the beauty of capturing these expressions, because even in psychology we call facial expressions of emotion signals with snapshot qualities. And it's a coincidence we're here talking about photography, because I study expressions that have snapshot qualities. They're very rare because you can take a snapshot of them, single point in time, and it tells you so much about what this person's mind is going through, what this person probably just experienced, how they're processing what they experienced, what their bodies are reacting to do, and what they're priming themselves to do, and how they're interacting with the environment. And that's a lot of information. And you can read that in anybody in the world. And that's why faces have this amazing power to do that in a snapshot.
Anybody in the world.
Anybody in the world.
And we all come equipped with the ability to read that, whether we know it or not.
Yeah, I believe it's a biologically innate ability. Even in our latest studies, even people who are congenitally blind, these are people who are blind from birth, could not possibly have learned to see expressions from anybody else. Their faces fire in exactly the same ways when they're emotional. Yeah, so to me it can't be something that we all learn. It's got to be something that we're born with. Even non-human primates like chimpanzees have the same facial musculature for emotion signaling. And they use them in exactly the same ways when they're placed in emotional situations. So it's data like this that suggests to me that it's not something that we learn, it's something that we're born with.
That's fascinating. Yeah. I'm going to look at a couple of more pictures quickly here. So this is a very famous image by Sebastian Salgado, known for images that are associated with beautiful suffering, which kind of has its own inherent dilemma. But what do you take away from this, and what might a regular viewer take away from that?
Sure. Well, again, my world is what's going on in the face, right? And clearly, I mean, even though some of these are a little difficult to see, here in this first picture, in the image in the front, this is clearly the expression of sadness or distress. Not only do you see the inner corners of the brows raised, but there's the other nonverbal behaviors that are associated, which is the heads down, eyes down, cast down. There's loss of muscle tone in the entire face, and a little drooping in the posture. So it gives the impression of that sadness, but you can see it's larger than the previous image, because you're getting more cues. You get the face, you get the eyes, you get the head position, you get the posture, and so there's many more signals that are coming to you for this particular expression, which is why it's interesting to me that you use the word suffering, which is a stronger version of sadness or distress, or this little distress that this girl over here is probably feeling. But it's that greater intensity of that same emotional construct. Then you've got that wrapped up into, quite frankly, pretty nice imagery.
It's beautiful.
Yes,
isn't
it's beautiful imagery. So you get this juxtaposition, and I'm not an expert in the rest of this.
Of course.
But what you get is this juxtaposition of this landscape with these clothing and the framing of the shot and all that stuff. So there's a message there that's combining with the message of these people that is providing the overall message from the picture. And so it's complex. It's probably interesting to a lot of people. And I'm not an expert in photography now, but it's probably interesting to a lot of people because of the complexity. I mean, this one's complex too, because there's the ambiguity. Like Mona Lisa, there's this ambiguity. It's a snapshot. She's got an expression, but why does she feel like that? What is that? And it's that ambiguity that allows us to fill our minds to fill in. It's not like watching a horrific thing occur on CNN, because there's no ambiguity there. It's drama, but it's not. There's no ambiguity. There's no complexity in that message. But these have complex messages, the way I'm seeing them.
And then I want to kind of talk a little bit in regards to this whole idea of a deadpan expression, which is something that you see a lot of in documentary and even photojournalism,
Sure.
which is a very blank expression. It seems expressionless at a first glance. So what are the ramifications of that?
Well, first of all, I got to say that what seems deadpan to a lot of people is not entirely deadpan to me.
That's what I thought.
Because I think there's a lot of expressions that occur that are very subtle, that are difficult to see and recognize unless you're really looking for it, you're trained to see it and you know what you're looking for. And on top of that, there's a little controversy about what I'm about to say, but it seems to be that people, as they get older, their wrinkle patterns that occur on their face may reflect their habitual use of their faces in emotional expressions. So some people, some cultures even believe that as you age, you learn your emotions when you're younger, but by the time you're 50 or 60, you're wearing them.
Wow.
Oh yeah. So and it's not entirely true. I mean, I got to say it's not entirely true, because wrinkle patterns are on the face are determined a lot, not only by usage of the muscle, but by the fatty deposits and the coloration of the skin and all that other kind of stuff. So there's a physical issue to be dealing with. But there probably is something to be said about the habitual use of certain expressions and how they will wear and last on your face, so that by the time you're a certain age, you might be able to see what that person's kind of emotional personality is like, about how they're normally reacting to things. So given that, I don't think that there are really deadpan faces. I mean, it's very rare for me to see really deadpan faces. I mean, deadpan meaning there's nothing there. I mean, of course they exist, but for example, on this picture on the left, there's a little tightening of the lip corners over here. There's a little tightening of the eyelids there. And so there may be a little raising of the inner corners of the brows. It's really difficult to tell because of the covering of the head. But if you can kind of see this movement of the brows up here, like that, a little bit of distress, but a little bit of concentration, but also controlling. When you see the tightening of the lip corners, the person is controlling their emotions.
Really?
Oh yeah. So, and I believe that's a universal signal of emotional control as well. So he's speaking a lot. He's speaking a lot. I think a little bit of distress, concentration, controlled. I get this message from this particular expression, regardless of the fact that he's holding a gun.
Yeah. Never mind that.
Yeah, never mind that. I think that's not entirely a neutral expression.
Is there any anger in it?
I don't think so, because the anger you would see in the brows coming down a little bit, or the lips being tightened. You see the lips themselves are not tightened.
It's a story about soldiers who are very much against Obama's ideas and are willing to fight against him. So,
well, who knows? But this brings up the other interesting point about photographs, because and one has to know the dynamics of an expression to kind of understand this whole thing. Expressions come on and off the face very quickly. When a person doesn't have a reason to hide their emotions, and they can just express them, and they have a strong emotion, it goes on and off their face normally between 1/2 and 4 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah, 1/2 and 4, which is an eternity. 1/2 and 4 seconds to me is an eternity. You know, it's a long, long time. The problem is there's also these things called microexpressions, which occur less than 1/2 a second. Sometimes we've clocked them as going as fast as 1/10 or 1/15 of a second. And they go on and off the face. You can't see them unless you know what to look for, but you can get trained to see them. And they're signs of concealed emotions. And when people are in an emotional situation, you might see their faces cycle through 1, 2, 3, 4 expressions in 1/2 a second. And it gives you a glimpse into what their mind is going through, how they're processing that situation. And you can see how they're afraid, and now they're angry, but then they're shocked, and now they're surprised about the fact that they're here. You know, and so you might see their face go through that, and we'll see it on video if we're doing slow motion analysis of it. If you're on a camera, however, you know, the message you're going to be showing in a photograph depends upon which one you got.
Right.
And what part of the timing of the expression you got. So, you know, this person could have been showing this, but in reality, this could have been an expression on the way to something else. Who knows? So photography has this, I mean, a still image has this amazing power to convey a lot of information in one shot, but it also has the power to convey the wrong information. And so one has to be very careful about, as a photographer, I would think, one has to be very careful about what to shoot and which to select to convey a message, because expressions occur so quickly and can change so rapidly across time that they do have snapshot qualities, but they also, you know, you can put the snapshots together and you get very different messages.
Wonderful. And then just for the last question,
Sure.
and I think you've almost pretty much answered it. In your opinion, can a photograph serve as a reliable document, a reliable sliver of truth?
Oh yeah, sure. I believe that a photograph, any kind of image of reality, can serve as a sliver of truth. Now, you said the right words. It's the sliver of truth. But then truth is probably consisting of many slivers. And the whole truth probably consists of multiple slivers. And so a photograph will have a sliver of the truth. Sure. Whatever is the reality, whatever is real behavior at that particular time, I think it has that enormous potential. But then it is that one point in time. Not the problem, but the issue is that when you freeze it, it's there for eternity. And so then the power becomes more powerful. And it can become more powerful as a message of the total reality, or maybe not. So I think there's really a danger as well. Clearly it has a potential for giving a glimpse of the total reality, but it is a sliver in a point of time. And when you're studying expressions, they change very rapidly.
Thank you so much for joining us today to talk about microexpressions and nonverbal communication. It's been very insightful.
Good luck with the class.
Thank you. Hope you enjoyed the interview.